Hello and welcome to the stash busting update. I have got to the end of my little stash busting project and I just thought I would talk about what I made, my reflections on it, because I learnt some things which I wasn't expecting to, and what I've got left over after all of that. So to update, if anybody hasn't seen the last video and is clicking into this one, I had a little pile of yarn. I've got loads of yarn all over the place, but I had some that had breached containment, and I had a little pile on the floor, and just whatever brain goblins were in charge for the past couple of months have said, like, don't put it away. So I decided that I would use it, and also in a way to declutter. I have been making gifts, so I wanted to make enough stuff from it to be able to fit everything on top of one of the carry bags that it came in, which is a Marks and Spencer's bag, which is like this big. So I wanted to be able to still see bag through it. I didn't want it to be spilling off of that. And I've done that. So I was just thinking I would update about what I did, because it's been fun. And then that also means that it declutters. I'm not just transforming it into something else that remains as a clutter in the house. So the thing that I made the most was bags. I don't have very much of the stuff that I made because I gave it away. One of the things which I kind of forget every time is that when I'm making gifts, because I take my knitting and my crochet out, people then see it and they're like, oh, that's nice. Or I'll show people, because I like showing off the stuff that I've made, and I'll be like, look, I made this, and they'll be like, oh, that's really cute, and then I can just go, do you want it? And I'll go, yeah. So it's actually really easy to find people to accept all of the knit and crochet items that I've made. So something to keep in mind if you're considering a similar kind of stash bust. So the first thing I made was a bag. So I made a square bag. I don't have it, I gave it away already. It's a navy blue bag. It used one ball of navy blue yarn. I held it double. I made a little square front to it, some little gussets down the side and the bottom bit. So I worked it crocheted from the front, did a little bit line through the back loop to give it kind of a turning edge, went along, and then came up the back. So I think actually I've got a crochet bag here. My delicates bag around my laundry basket. So down there I gave a little gusset, came up, did one side all in blue, did a little bit side up on the other side, and ran out of yarn at that point, so it fully used up the blue. And then I found some chunky grey, which I held single, finished up the rest of it, and made a pair of handles for it. And that worked out totally fine. It didn't use up all of the grey. I actually had a different project that I was knitting, not particularly as part of this stash busting, and actually I thought it would work really well in that, so it's become incorporated in that project. The little bit that I had left over, because I'm striping in different colours, so that works really well for adding in those little bits of stripe and some little details of colour work, and that's got like a tiniest little bit left, but that's going to be incorporated into that, so that's no problem. That's on its way. It counts as done. It's this big at the moment, so even if it was on there, I've still passed my test. The next thing I made was another bag. This one I still have, because I forgot to give it to my friend who came over, because I was messaging her and I was like, this is nice, like, do you want it? Yeah, all right. And then I was feeling so nervous about her coming over, because she's so pretty. I forgot to give it to her. So this was my attempt at mosaic crochet. My best friend started having a go at it, so I thought I'd have a go. I thought it looks a little bit like a hedge maze. I don't know if it's just because I've been reading The Shining, so I'm thinking about that and that. But yes, this is a square bag. This one doesn't have a gusset. It's just two squares worked from the centre. The blue one that I made, I gave it to my friend Jay. It was his birthday. I made it spontaneously. I needed to give him a gift. He's just started knitting. I put 2 balls of yarn in that blue bag, and I had a hand spun one as well that I just made separate to this. So that's where that one went. And then this one is for my friend Spring, who came over, and I forgot to give it to her. The back has got grey in it. The really fun thing about this is that I made the front square and I made it a bit bigger. I had a couple of extra rows of green, And then when I was working on the back, I realised I wouldn't have enough. So I was unpicking this, like the row from the first square that I'd done to finish this one. And then I was going to do a line of single crochet along the top, and I was slip stitching these together. I'd initially single crocheted them together, and then I ran out of yarn like quite early on. So I undid it and slip stitched the yarn together, and I was going to single crochet along the top, and then I didn't have enough, so then I was slip stitching along the top just so it wouldn't end on that grey row. And one of the things that I do sometimes when I'm working chunky, if I'm not holding two separate colours together, I'll hold each end, like the centre pull and the outer pull together. And I was holding the like pink colour in this, it's kind of like a bit of a pinky purple variegate, and the grey that I used on the back together. So it was like I had each end of it on each one of these handles. So I made the handles exactly what was left of the pinky purple and then had the grey in for other projects. So this one was really fun as a challenge to use up like the yarn with no leftovers other than like the little teeny snips at the end you get from like weaving in the ends and like the cast on tail. So it was like a game of yarn chicken, and I was using up all of it with no leftovers but to use it all up, and that was quite interesting. That was quite fun on a challenge where it doesn't matter what size it is, the thing that you're making. You can just make it however big or small. So this has got a little wrist handle, but if I'd had loads of yarn, it could have ended up with a shoulder crossbody strap. And the bags ended up kind of just big enough for, I think it looks like summertime. I think it looks like you're out in the park in your hedge maze, your nice mosaic crochet that I worked out, and you can put your sunglasses and a Bluetooth speaker or some sunscreen in here, or phone and keys, that sort of thing, and just kind of be out for the summer. So that was fun. That was a really fun way of trying to use it up with no leftovers. The next thing I made, I have gifted away, so I do not have here, was a giant shawl. And this honestly pretty much did the whole thing. I could have just stash busted with that one project. I made a giant shawl. I had a friend who I'd gone over to their house and she'd seen my giant scarf and had said like, oh, I really like that. I haven't tried making a shawl myself yet. And I really like how your outfit's got lots of different colours in it, because I had a jacket that's got like a brightly coloured lining that I crocheted into. And I haven't been brave enough to make a shawl yet. So I thought, you know what? I'm stash busting. I'm making gifts. I'm going to crochet her a shawl. So I held the yarn double. I cast on, I usually, when I make scarves, I make them at my arm span, which is, I'm 5'2", so about 160 centimetres. So I cast on a chain that was that long. And then I changed colour every row, and I made it a triangle. So I cast on straight, and then I decreased at one edge to make a big triangle, forgetting that I wasn't making the long edge. I was making the bottom edge, and the hypotenuse of my triangle was in fact the long edge. So I made a giant shawl. It was too big. It was 160 centimetres at the bottom, and the hypotenuse, assuming that I did my Pythagoras correctly, was 2¼ meters long. I wrapped it around my body. We're quite similar sizes, and it wasn't as much of a workout as I was worried it was going to be. I thought it was going to be kilos, but that used up 900 grams of yarn. I weighed it at the end. I folded it up, and it was about kind of this big on the scale, like that, and then like a 9-inch pizza box, but like 4 of them stacked on top of each other. It's like almost a kilo of yarn. But that didn't use up 9 balls. What I did with that was mostly focused on, well, I thought I'm going to use up all my little ball ends. This is what I call a ball end. This isn't part of the stash thing. This is just one that I found because my best friend gives me hers because she doesn't like using small quantities and making little things. She tends to make bigger projects. So I thought, oh, I can use up loads of things that look like this because it's only a single stripe, so even if I only get one stripe out of it. Holding them double and doing it chunky, I ended up with using like 3 stripes, made like a whole, used like a whole ball of yarn, like 50 grams went into 3 of the stripes, especially at the long end. When the lengths got that long, it was fine, I could use little ball ends. And my thought was, oh, I'll grab 5 or 6 balls of yarn, and as I combine them, and as I use them up, I'll end up with a little bit, and then by the time I've used up all of the bigger quantities, I'll have the little ones left over, and then I'll use those, and then it'll work out. It did not work out. I had to just keep coming back and stash diving and picking up more and picking up more. And just like, I need another one, I need another one. I'd originally started by trying to do a light and bright sort of look. So I had all of the white, I had some like bright colours like a scarlet red, a bright turquoise, but I just ended up using mostly everything that wasn't textured. So I had shiny black and just tried to separate out so that the colours weren't too close together. So when I had a stronger colour like a black or a forest green or something like that, they were sort of 5 rows away from each other, so they sat as stripes a bit further away and interweaved and stuff like that. It was great. One of the colours I used was this brown, which I used a bit of on this project. I didn't want too much brown because I didn't want to make it too dark. And also because I like dark colours, so if I was using them up I wanted to prioritise especially the colours that I wasn't keen on, so all of the pale blues, which I end up with loads of, and pale blue is nice, but I don't need as much pale blue acrylic as I've got. But I don't know, this brown was really nice, so I have used quite a bit of it, but this is a little bit of it that I've got left. And other than like white and cream, I don't have any of the other colours left because they all got used in that, pretty much they all got used in that. So that converted a lot of balls into smaller ball ends like this, and some of the ball ends also got used up completely. So I did end a whole like 50 gram or 100 gram ball with like ends that long, and otherwise completely used up in that project. The interesting thing I learnt about that one is the triangle hypotenuse thingy, and to keep that into consideration if I want to have something where the long edge that you wrap around your neck ends up being that long, is not to start with that and then to do the maths backwards, which is easy enough, I can do that. I'll remember that for next time. Or I won't, I'll make another massive one. It's fine. My best friend enjoyed it so much that she's making her own, and she's like, I've made it bigger than yours, because apparently we're men now. So yeah, it was a fun make. It took like a while, and she was so happy when she received it, she nearly cried. She was like holding back tears. She was really happy, she loved it. And then she's been ill, so she's been sat under it, and apparently it's been really nice. So no regrets. The thing that I learned was how important the neutral colour is with what you've got. So I'd initially started with focusing on having white, and a lot of white to keep it really light. But I still had the bright colours, but everything was still kind of coming across as a bit of a icy, pale blue, Nordic calm sort of feeling. And then as I was kind of just going in and just grabbing kind of whatever and trying to keep it roughly in line, I ended up with cream on the back of it. Now, the difference between white and cream is not vast. Like, it's like this, isn't it? Like, this is a kind of gold, but it's sort of showing up as cream, and this is white. Like, they're very, very similar. But it really, really changed the whole tone of the piece. It went from looking very much from light Nordic snowy background to vintage cricket jumper, which is very cool. But yeah, as someone that's in the process of exploring a lot of colour as a yarn spinner and having a lot more freedom to combine different colours, it's really kind of given me a lot more information and knowledge about how much the tone can change, even if it's between kind of like white and off-white, 2 colours which I kind of would have just substituted together without really thinking about it in the past. So that was a really interesting one. I made another item, and I checked online, and the internet has in fact told me it is cursed. I was like, this might be cute, or am I really cursed? As I was thinking about different projects that I could make, and I was thinking I'll mostly make bags because I feel like that'll be helpful for other people. I made an item for my partner's goddaughter, and I thought I'll make a little plushie. I'll make a little Pokemon plushie, and it'll be really cute. So this is Jigglypuff. Someone on Reddit said it's the kind of thing that you'd put on the shelf when you go to sleep, and then you'd wake up in the morning with it on your pillow. She's 18, so I think I'm probably unlikely to traumatize her with it. So she'll either think it's cute, or she'll have a bit of a laugh about how cursed it is, and hopefully will not interpret it as a threat. People have said that it is recognizable as Jigglypuff, but yeah, it's not excellent, cute origami work. I feel no regrets. I was surprised at how much yarn this did not use. I suppose if I'd stuffed it with yarn, I used little fabric scraps and threads from a pot that I tend to keep for things that I can't use for carding, which you'll see later. But yeah, this used one of the balls of pink. So I held two different balls together, and I had one that's got a little bit of extra shine in it. You kind of see like that, those little shiny flecks. And the arms and the ears have got like one of the original colour and then like a different shade of pink in it. It's not noticeable on camera, and it's also not particularly noticeable in person. It's only because I know they were different colours I could find it. But yeah, I only used up one ball of yarn, which I think it was a bit tricky as well because it was very dictated what the colours had to be. It had to be blue eyes, it had to have a white background, the details had to be in black. I could probably have got away with green eyes if I was just making a little cartoon plushie and it didn't have to be Jigglypuff specifically. Cursed Jigglypuff specifically. Does it look like it's floating by itself yet? Do the illusion juggling. Yeah, so it meant that I didn't have the freedom that if I ran out halfway up I could just change it to purple and it could be a half and half or something like that. I mean, I could, but then I think it would be a lot less recognisable. So not great in my opinion for stash busting projects. Even if they're gifts, like, it's fine and you can use it, and you can use stash yarn, especially when you're like me and you've got an absolutely massive stash, which I do. So it wasn't a problem, but also it wasn't as helpful as I thought it might be. Then I made some more bags. I had a bit of a Google about, and I went onto the hobby website. I've given them away, so I can't show you. So I made one that was granny squares, if we use this one as my example. You made 3 granny squares, and then you folded them, so you had like one like that, one on either side, so it looks a little bit like an envelope, and then you make a strap over the top and you end up with something about the size, you end up with something about the size of a bum bag that you can wear on your shoulder, and it kind of, it looks like a handbag. So it came out with an overall capacity, I think the squares were about sort of this sort of size, so it was about that wide, about that deep, and then just kind of came up into the sides. I used brown, I used some darker colours. My friend saw it, I said, "Do you want it?" And she was like, "Yeah." And she had come out with just her phone and her keys, and she didn't have a handbag with her, so she just put her stuff in and used it as a handbag immediately, and then when we stopped at the shop she used it as a shopping bag as well. So that's already gone. And then I made another bag because I made 4 granny squares, and I thought that I needed 3 granny squares. I thought that I needed 4 granny squares, but actually I needed 3 granny squares, so I had an extra one left over. So where I had one that started in the middle like this and round for the bag, and it matched. And I used different colours every time. That used up all of the cream, I used some of the brown that I've still got left over, and it used up all of the navy blue sparkly and black sparkly that I had. So that took away like the ends of a couple of other balls. And then the other side I did just stripes. That sat on the side until I found out that it was, I'd gone out for a dog walk with one of my neighbours, and it was her daughter's birthday. So I said, "Do you want a little bag? I'd quite like to give her something. She's quite into crafts. I think she'll appreciate it." And she went, "Yep, does look like her style." She's quite into she's kind of pastel goth. So she was quite into having something that was kind of like dark with some little cream accents and stuff. So that's hers now. So I don't have it to show you because now it's down the road with my neighbour's daughter. I made something else which I don't have. I was kind of storing the yarn for that project into a little bucket. I've made it before. So this isn't the one that I made with the stash, but this is another one. I saw it on a stash busting video as a pattern, and it's a free pattern on Ravelry, I want to say. And it's just a stash buster basket. You do everything in half double crochet. I love half double crochet. So much of this has been half double crochet because I refuse to do anything different. And you hold 3 strands together. So I made a little basket, and where you do that you end up with loads and loads of colours. I didn't learn anything new because it was just the same project that I'd made before. I made it slightly flared at this point. So I made it round in the same way. And then I made it slightly flared because I went to go and see my friend Grant's musical that he's just produced and done a tour of. And there's a whole load of stuff about bucket hats in it. So I was like, I'll make a bucket hat that's like just a basket. And I put handles on it. So I just basically made this, and I made it big enough that you could put it on his head. And it had quite a lot of this green fuzzy yarn that I had. That's quite a nice sort of fun thing. So I think it makes it look a bit grassy on the sides. So the bottom similarly had a million different colours. And then the side, in the same way as this one's got like a lot of red and coral, was green. And I made it, and I saw his show on Tuesday, and I said I'd go twice if he wanted me to, and he said yes please. So I saw his show on Tuesday. I made him a bucket hat on Wednesday, and then I gave it to him on Thursday. So that's gone as well. And that used up the sort of ball end size. So that used up quite a lot of bits that were this size, which was quite nice. And also, I call it bobbin length. I don't know why. I think my grandma once said, I'll wind it into a little bobbin. And so that's what I've called this sort of size. Again, this isn't from stash, this is just about. So I was using mostly ball ends and bobbins. I took the yarn out with me because I was life modelling that day, and I was crocheting on the bus on the way there, and not on the way back because I'd finished it. I was there. Boring bus journey back. I just played on my phone. And that used up loads of that. And then I had a ball of navy, mostly acrylic, with 25% wool. And I was supposed to go to my friend's birthday party, but they've had to postpone it because someone wasn't available. So he's going to have to wait a little bit longer for this scarf because I decided it should be for him, and now it does feel like it is his. So I made a scarf out of some more of these little lengths. So I did it as alternate. This is a really pretty project. I very much like this. I may repeat it. I'm in the process of weaving the ends in, so some of it's still a little bit scrappy. But I alternated. So I did a solid colour. I didn't hold anything together. This is just as is, and this is knit as opposed to crocheted because I got pretty bored of crocheting by that point. So I did, there we go, that shows it nicely. So 2 rows of stocking stitch and then 2 rows of garter stitch. So you get like this little ditch and this bump. And when you look at it straight on, you get a stripy scarf. And when you look at it at an angle, it becomes navy. And because obviously a scarf is worn in a way where you don't have like a side against your body, so the wrong side can then be revealed, you get quite a nice looking little scarf on the back as well. So you get something quite different. So I thought this has got quite a lot of like nice masculinity to it. He's a science teacher. So I thought this is kind of like enough to be fun and interesting, but then still very much enough to be like masculine and serious. So yeah, this is his scarf, and he'll get it whenever we reschedule his party and I go off and see him. It's come out about the right size, and it's used up the entire ball of blue and quite a lot of the little ends. I think actually I managed to use up all of my little ends and ball ends between the bucket scarf and between the bucket hat and this scarf. I didn't have any ball ends or like bobbin lengths left. But I am a zero waste fibre artist. Oh, I had a ball of mohair as well. This wasn't technically stash busting because I'd already finished the stash busting project, but I've made my friend a harness. They're quite into fuzzy stuff, so this is going to go in the post to them. It's like a chest harness, and that's made with some pink that wasn't part of this stash one and a white mohair. I'd already passed, it was already like down to the amount of yarn that I wanted, and then I saw it and I was like, I'm gonna make this for my friend. So I'm in the process of, I've just finished weaving the ends in, and I'm in the process of putting together a little care package of things to make for this pal to put in the post to them. So I've got my little lengths, and I had some of those anyway because the bag that I had was a combination of 3 like bags from different locations. One of them was from my best friend who, like I said, gives me all of her ball ends and all of like the tiny little cut lengths. One was from a friend who'd just been given some and was like, I don't do this kind of craft. Here's the whole load of yarn. And then one was one that I got on Facebook Marketplace, which I was pretty disappointed with the contents of. So I had some little ends, and because I'd been like saving them and putting them into their own specific bag, I had some of those left over. I had about twice as much as this, a whole load more. And I'm a yarn spinner, as I mentioned, so I carded them. And I made some new yarn with it. So this is, oh, it's so pretty in person. I shouldn't have filmed this at night. It's a nice little gradient-y transition from black to purple to blue to kind of a mint green, a beige, and I've combined it with some 100% wool, white wool, or maybe off-white wool. And I've just plied it together. It's probably easiest to see on the black and on the dark colour. So it's got this barber pole striping effect. And it's come out really nice. I don't know what I'm going to use it for. And even if I reincorporate it into the bag, I don't know whether this counts as having busted the stash, because all the little lengths are gone. And all the little lengths that I generated while making everything else, like many of those have been incorporated. But I don't know if you count as restash now. It's a mystery. I don't know. Either way, still fits my criteria of having busted the stash and only having a little bit left over. And I also pulled out all of these little bits. I have no idea where this came from. I don't know what bag these came out of. I had some eyelash yarn. I had 2 balls of eyelash yarn. I made a scarf. I combined them together. Oh god, I didn't even talk about this one. This one's going in my care package to my friend that's getting the harness. I wanted to make a pun. I had these little pearl buttons. It's a clutch. It's just crocheted 2 bits of yarn held together. It's a yarn clutch. Pearls, so you can clutch pearls. I'm posting it to my friend. But yeah, I don't know where these sparkly guys have come from. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to use them for. I'm thinking maybe, in the same way as you can get blown yarn, which is like a very small chain of like some sort of synthetic fibre, and then you just blow fibre into it. I'm wondering about, because I've got an I-cord maker, that I could get a 4-ply yarn, churn that through to make it into a chunky yarn, and maybe put these inside as I'm making it. So I'm thinking that's probably what I'm gonna do. But yeah, so I've got a whole load of these. Yeah, I made a scarf. I've posted it to my friend. She's got it. She likes it. She likes pink fluffy eyelash yarn. It's this shade of pink, which I absolutely cannot stand. Great for Jigglypuffs, terrible for everything else. So it's all gone and it's all out of my life. So that's all of the stuff I've made. I've probably forgotten more things. Who knows, really. So what have I got left over? So I've got this yarn, which my friend bought in the charity shop and did not like. So I know that that's one that came from B. And I've got 3 balls of this, and they are 50 grams. They're merino wool, baby alpaca, and silk. So that's quite fun. She didn't like knitting it. I'm planning to make a cardigan, and I'm planning on using some striping and some hand spun. So I think that's going to be quite nice with that, and that'll extend that out. I'm also planning on using this tapestry wool, which came from the bag that came from Judith, who is just a non-craft person who ended up with a bag of yarn and went, "Can I give this to you?" I'm like, yeah, of course you can. I'll use it. So I've used it. Thanks, buddy. I knitted some of it up and gave it back to her in the form of a hat and a scarf. So she's already had some of it back. So this, which is 100% wool, I'm also going to use that for stripes. And I've got this much of that. It's tapestry wool. I mean, it's supposed to be for embroidery or tapestry work, but whatever. I'm just going to knit it into little stripes, and I'm going to do that in combination with hand spun and in combination with this grey. I've got a couple of little fuzzy guys, like a bright scarlet red and this sage green, a little bit left of that, no particular plans. I've got some of this, which, to be honest, probably would have gone much sooner, but I dropped it off Whip Mountain, and I did not see it until yesterday. It's one of the ones that I held for this. But yeah, so it's a cream coloured yarn. This one is a cream coloured yarn, but it feels like it's wool, so it's probably going to go into this same cardigan project. I've got this weird texture yarn, which has got kind of like a squiggle yarn with these little slubby, beehivey coils. No idea what I'm going to do with that. Might try some yarn jewellery? Don't know. And then I've got a skinny white, well, I've taken out quite a lot of it, so I've been working from the outside and the inside, so it looks like there's a bit more than there is, but it's very thin. Again, no particular plans for that. So yeah, it all fits well on the bag. It's all sorted. The interesting thing that came out of picking which yarns and picking which projects that I wanted to prioritise for which yarns was thinking about how I wanted to save things for myself, and which I think is fine. Like, if you've got, I think sometimes in the knitting community we think about who's knit worthy and who are you going to be like gifting a burden to, because if I make 100% wool jumper, give it to my partner, they're just going to put it through the washing machine. They're not going to take care of it. It's going to disintegrate. So that doesn't make sense. So if I'm making stuff for them, it should be in acrylic, something that's sort of hard wearing, or maybe a blend, so it feels nice, but it's not going to get destroyed if it goes through the laundry in a fit of absent-mindedness. But I was thinking predominantly as the colours, because I really like things that are dark and super saturated. So, for example, the brown, but there was like a dark green, which I really liked, and I did really like it. But one of the things that you get as a maker is you get to make with that thing. So I did keep it for myself because I used it, and I got that experience with that colour, even if I didn't then keep the finished object. And I thought that was an interesting thing. And I really liked how, because I had a small pool of yarn, because I'd kind of brought it all together, and it's only going to be the stuff in this pile, I then had to prioritise. Okay, I can only keep the certain amount and enough that'll fit on the bag. So although all of these yarns are beautiful and they're all ones that I could use, might use, would like to use to make something for myself, I have to prioritise, and